border guard left wing, was used by Obama to overwhelm the Clinton machine and get the nomination. Now, since then, a lot of these people have actually become disillusioned with Obama because of his betrayals. I mean, take this FISA question, right? The wiretapping. Obama had pledged that he would filibuster any attempt to renew the FISA shenanigans of Bush and to give retroactive immunity to the telecom companies. And instead, Obama voted for it. He had said that he was against free trade and NAFTA, or suggested he might be, and then he actively embraced it. And then even on the Iraq War, he said, I'll have a timetable, and then his advisor said, no, he's not going to be bound by any silly campaign promises. So some of these left liberals are in crisis, but there are a lot of them that still remain on board. Surely a night of the long knives is coming for them, and I think you get back to this remarkable statement by Biden in Seattle, because he not only says apparently that they're going to go back to false flags to get the new enemies list established, he also talks about a systemic economic crisis where the measures that Obama will introduce will be so unpopular that the Obama regime will collapse in the polls. People who are going to say, wait a minute, what decisions are you making, Obama? And why are the polls so low? And Biden has to appeal to them, say, you hardcore of rich elitists, because he's in Seattle. He might have Bill and Melinda Gates there, for all we know, or people of this type, right? Ballmer, people who run Microsoft, sitting there for Biden. And he says, we will have to make economic decisions that are going to be extremely unpopular. And if they're popular, they won't be sound. So we want them to be sound. They're going to be extremely unpopular. This is an amazing document. In other words, I would urge people, organize now for the next 2 weeks on the basis of the fact we have got the printout of the Obama regime. He's going to attack his own base, including these left liberals. He's going to betray his own base. He's going to become unbelievably unpopular. This was something that I had in mind when I did Obama, the Postmodern Coup, back in the springtime. I went back and wrote a 40-page short history of the Carter regime, the last trilateral puppet with a real catastrophic presidency with Volcker and Brzezinski. And what you see in Carter is that he began collapsing right after the 100 days were over. In other words, 3 months into his first term, his only term, he began collapsing. And I said to myself, well, it took Carter about 12 months to become completely unpopular and basically hated. How long will it take for Obama? Well, certainly less than 12 months, because of the increased crisis that we face today. The situation much further far gone than with Carter. So that is what what Biden has now told us. Biden is a guy. He's got a mind like a rag bag. He deals in fragments of thought, right? He spews them out. He can't shut up. What he's obviously done is told some briefings that he's had. Notice that the two campaigns, McCain and Obama-Biden, were briefed last week at the White House. Now, a White House briefing these days does not mean a Bush-Cheney neocon briefing. It means a principals committee briefing. It means something that's according to the policies expressed by Rice, by Robert Gates, the Brzezinski stooge from the Carter years, Admiral Mullen, and of course Paulson, the most powerful of them all right now, the guy who actually runs the government in the economic and domestic policy. So what Biden seems to be regurgitating here is what he got out of that briefing that they got from the White House, which is that if Obama gets in, the rogue network in the government, the establishment, right, the permanent Washington bureaucracy, this network that goes through there at any rate, is going to try to start something. Again, it's time to say we don't want to go down that road. Let's reject Obama, and if that means McCain, it's going to be so much harder to organize this stuff. You can't get anybody in Europe with McCain. You can't get European troops and European money. You can't get them with McCain any more than you could get them with Bush.
Webster, I want to focus in on what you were just saying because it's important. I don't want this to go over people's heads because they're halfway listening, taking groceries out of the car, writing somebody a ticket or whatever people are out there doing listening. They need a crisis. They need a military crisis so they can flex muscles and popularize him as a tough guy to get people to rally around the government and say, we'll do whatever the commander-in-chief says in these tough economic times because the darn Ruskies or the Pakistanis, they did something wrong. And we've got the elite signaling that they're going to do something big for all those in the know, kind of like we had one of the CFR policymakers, Gary Hart, write a letter to Ahmadinejad saying, look, you better do what we say or we'll stage a terror attack on you, pal, and we're not above doing it. So that's a multifaceted threat. Because for the public, they know the public's dumbed down, stuck on their thumbs watching football, and so they openly discuss in thinly veiled discussions. The reason I brought up, so I want you to elaborate on that, A, and then B, the reason I brought up Noam Chomsky, he endorsed 2 days ago Barack Obama. And I'm just so tired of, because somebody talks with a lisp, and says they're intellectual, we fall down like they're an idol at their feet. I mean, I don't claim to be an intellectual, but I have guests on who are light years, ahead of this guy and really talking about real issues. I'm so tired of the phony right and the phony left. It makes me want to throw up.
Well, again, how can we express this at the polls? Because now there is this election. Given the fact that we have the media whores outdoing themselves in unbelievable excesses of Obamaphilia and groupie behavior, just the idea of defeating the media's favorite candidate would be a liberating experience. The American people, if they could pull themselves together and defeat Obama, that would be a crushing defeat to this mighty Wurlitzer that we've had going for all these
That's right, because
years.
they're running a corpse against him like Bob Dole against Clinton in 96, meaning for McCain to lose. And if we put the corpse in office instead of him, they're going to have a lot of trouble putting perfume on that pig.
And again, you don't get the 200,000 German lemmings with McCain. You don't get anything with McCain. You don't get a facelift for imperialism. You get no credibility in Europe, no money, no troops, can't send any more people to Afghanistan. It just puts the whole imperialist operation in a much weaker condition. And again, think about this stuff about the economic policies, right? That he's saying, Biden says, I guarantee you, I promise you, in 1 year, we will be a collapsed regime. In other words, we will have extreme unpopularity because of our economic decisions, I think is what he's talking about, even more maybe than the...
Why can't Biden help it? He just loves to talk about what's really going on.
He does. He's not quite aware of what he's talking to. In other words, I think he's got people, again, like Bill and Melinda Gates or this guy Ballmer or others. He's got the money bags people. It's a crowd that delivered about $1 million in two meetings in the Sheraton in Seattle, Washington. So he thinks it's a moment a little bit like Obama talking to the San Francisco group with somebody like Gordon Getty, right? And he goes. He
thinks he's in a comfortable inner sanctum. They're playing the old game of 10, 20 years ago when the media knew to shut up.
The bitter clinger, right? The people who have no jobs and cling to guns, religion, and anti-trade above all. That has been, I think, the insight that a lot of people have into Obama comes from that particular tirade. I think Obama has done the same thing here. But also notice he's appealing to them saying, we will require a hardcore of fanatical, determined support that will support us no matter what. And that is, again, an advantage of Obama. And Obama has a following, again, I've called it basically verging on fascism.
Well, you've been saying that for like 10, 11 months, and I was like, now I've run into them. I mean, people I've known for years are like zombies, angry with me, and I'm just like, man, what has come over you? You're just like the Bush supporters. We just cover the facts here. Webster.
But notice with McCain has no base of support, really. There's no group that is absolutely devoted to McCain. Nobody.
Webster, what is the elite?
That's another advantage.
Yeah, well, I understand. And the listeners do, too. Webster, what is the elite going to do as it becomes even more apparent, more clear, that you have the military-industrial complex, the shadow government run by Wall Street, the internationalists, the Anglo-American aristocracy, oligarchs, running everything, and everything they do is unpopular. Every issue they're on is unpopular. I mean, everything they do is 70 to 95 points. The bailout, 99 points, 1,001 calls or more. Against what the people want. I mean, it's becoming so obvious down the road, regardless of who gets elected. How do you see this all playing out? I mean, here's a better way. With a McCain, how does it play out in 60 seconds? With an Obama, how does it play out in 60 seconds?
Well, with McCain, I think it leads to an abortive defeat of the ruling elite. In other words, it leads to a period of prolonged political ferment and indecision and conflict and partisan gridlock and so forth, out of which a real alternative might come. It would be our job to intervene in that and try to bring out of it a viable alternative. We'd have to have an economic program and a whole series of other things. The case of Obama, remember, the